Hi, this short video is going to just show you testing a class in the simplest way that I can. And I'm using part of the first practical exam to do this. So the very first thing I'm going to do is create a folder in which to work. So I'm going to do this with using the terminal. You'll use a different way of doing this. I'm going to create a directory called testor, and I'm going to change to that directory. And in that directory, I'm going to make two files, one which will contain the tests, and the other one will contain the class that's being tested. So I'm going to start with the tester, even though intuition might tell you to start that second. And it should be clear to you why I'm doing that one first in just a minute. So I'm going to call it testor.java, and I'm going to give it a white background, and I'm going to give the other file that I'm going to work on here a blue background. So you'll be able to tell when I switch back and forth between these two files whether I'm working with the class, the tester class, or the class that's to be tested. So this contains the tester class, and it's in a file called testor.java. So I'm going to name this class, the tester class, with a name that's the same as the name of the file minus the .java part. Okay, and then I'm going to put curly braces after that, and that's the entire the class is just going to go inside these two curly braces. That's all I have to do to create the class. Now, when I run this test, Java has to have an entry point. Java has to know what to do first, and the only way that Java can get an entry point is if I create a method called main. So I'm going to do that right here. And then even though there are ultimately going to be two files in this folder, Java is going to know that all I really want it to do is run this method in this file. So I've now created that method. Here's the method signature for the main method, and it's always the same for every main method that you do. And then the method body goes inside the curly braces, and this is all inside. This is the main method of the public class tester. And we know that it's a method because it ends with parentheses. Okay, now inside this method, the very simplest thing that I can do is print something out. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say system.out.println, and this method that I'm invoking here expects a string. So if I put some words inside of quotes here, like this is the start of the main method, if I put these words in quotes, this method knows that this is a string. If I don't, if I put an integer in here, this method will try to turn it into a string. But this is very simple, and this will work. I should be able to make this byte compile using Java-C on this file, and then I should be able to run it using the Java virtual machine, and get a very simple result, which is that this will be displayed on the screen. So I'm going to take this away, put the terminal back here, and I'm going to try to do exactly that. I'm just going to clear this off here, and I'm going to say Java-C testor.java, and if there are no errors, that's all that will happen. Now, suppose that I did something different that wasn't so good. So let's say, for example, I were to spell string with a lowercase letter instead of capital letter, and Java wouldn't recognize it. So I'm just going to do that, and then I'm going to attempt this again. And this time, I get an error message and a little thing that points to where the error message is. It says it can't find a symbol that's the lowercase word string, because it's expecting an uppercase. Lowercase word string doesn't mean anything to Java. So I'm going to fix that error. And let's see what's another error I can put in. Let's see, I can put in an error here. I don't include the semicolon at the end of this. So I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to try it again. I'm going to clear this off and say Java-C testor.java, and it says that it expected a semicolon there. It even knew what was wrong there that time. That's A smart little byte compiler there. Okay, so now I'm going to put that semicolon back. What if I what if I don't have enough braces? I'm going to just delete this curly brace here and take it away again. And you should try this. You should try purposely doing some things wrong just to see what kind of error messages you get, because a lot of times when you're under pressure, so I reached the end of file while parsing this, so that suggests to me that I'm missing. It's looking for a curly brace that's missing, or it's looking for some kind of closure that it's missing. Conversely, I could put an extra curly brace in like this, and then what would happen? I'm going to clear that off, and I'm going to say that this message is completely uninformative. I have no idea what I should be saying here. What's happened is that I reached the end of the public class tester, and there was still other stuff in the file. So it expects that the other stuff will start with the declaration of a class. So that error message, if I already know what's going on, I know what that error message means, but to a beginner that wouldn't be so obvious. So what's happened is that this brace matches this brace. So when this public class is over, the next thing that Java would expect to see would be, say, another class. So I'm going to take that out. This time I'm just going to let it go. I'm going to do it right. I hope I took everything out that I meant to. Okay, so nothing happens. So now the next step, so that simply means, so I'm just going to say this as a comment. Java C catches syntax errors. There could still be semantic errors. Okay, Java C wouldn't necessarily catch that. So now I'm going to say Java tester, and instead of saying Java tester.java, I'm saying Java tester because it is the tester class inside that file that I want to run. And when I ran it, I found that there were no obvious mistakes. At least it did print out what I expected it to print out. So I did this before I began the class that I want to test, so that I know when I put something in here for testing, I want to know that everything else in here is okay. So that's why I created this shell first, and I might want to even just keep a shell like this laying around, like example shell.java, and start, so I don't have to start out making typographical errors. I might start with that. Okay, now the method that I'm going to test, this is from the first exam, and it's going to be the personnel question. And one of the things that you have to create in the personnel, or that's given to you in the personnel question, is employees. You're going to create employee objects. So I'm going to open an employee .java file, and let's see, I want this to be blue. So I'm creating this with a blue background so that you know that I'm in the file in the class that's to be tested, not in the class that is testing. And in here, I need to create this the employee class, and it has to have the same name as the name of the file. So I'm going to create this public class employee, and now I've got an employee class. So, and inside the employee class, I want to do two things. I want to create some instance variables, and then I want to create some methods. And so an instance variable is a variable that will end up getting attached to any object that we create as a result of instantiation using this class. So this class is this public employee class is a blueprint for employees. When we want to actually work with an employee, we're going to make an employee object, and that employee object will have specific values of these variables. And the two variables that we're going to start with are their employee number and their name. So I'm going to make these two private instance variables. Now these can be used anywhere inside this class. Okay, so I now have these two variables that can be used here. If I were to test this, nothing really would happen. if I were to try to use it, because the only way that I'm really going to be able to test this is in my test program to call one of the methods from this, and there are no methods yet. And we know, so I've started out with some instance variables, and then the next thing I'm going to put in are some methods, and then I can call those methods when I create a new example of an employee. And the kinds of methods that are of interest include constructors, accessors, and mutators. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a constructor. And so that constructor, so all constructors, let me just say it up here, constructors have the same name as the class. So that's how you know it's a constructor. So if I create a method here called public employee with parentheses at the end, now I know that this is a method. So up here, I have a class. I know that this is a class. It's the word employee, and there's nothing after it. This must be a method because it's got parentheses immediately after it. And I want to write what's going to be the end of that. So I've got an open and close curly brace there. And when I create an employee, let's suppose that I want to create first a constructor for an employee whose information we don't know yet. So there might be all kinds of reasons for that. For example, we have a new employee orientation coming up, and we just know that there are going to be a certain number of employees at it, so we want to have a certain number of welcome packets. So we might want to create them with without knowing their employee numbers. No employee number has been assigned yet, and the name has not been assigned, so I can give it a name of unknown. And maybe I'll use this -1 as a placeholder for employee numbers that I don't know. Later I can check. I can assume that if an employee number is -1, that employee's records haven't been completed yet. Okay, so there's a public constructor, and I can now check this class. I now have a method that I can use to check. So the way that I can check is that I'll create an object of this class, and when I create an object and know nothing about it, it'll have this information in it. But how will I get that information back? I'm going to need some way to get this information out of this class, and the way that I do that is a different kind of method called an accessor. So I'm going to do that before I can really test. Now I could still test this in the sense that I can do this, and if I get no errors, that may mean that nothing is wrong. In fact, let me just do that first. Just before I create an accessor, let me just test this the way it is, because I can create this. So I'm going to take this away, and I'm going to put the tester back here, and right after the start of the main method, I'm going to put another. I'm going to put this. I'm going to say employee. That's the class that I want to create an object of, and here's the name of the object that I want to create, and here's the keyword new, and then I'm just going to leave some space here for reasons that will become obvious, and then here's the name of the constructor. So let me just I'm just going to say this is the class, this is the object, this is the keyword, and this is the constructor. So when I create a new object, I'm going to do it with those 4 things. Now there are other ways we can do this that you'll learn later, but not in this class. In this class, we're going to always do it in this beginning course. We're always going to do it this way, and then you'll learn fancier and better looking ways later. Okay, so having done that, I've now created this. So presumably, if I were to run Java-C on this and then run Java on it, I would still just get this. I would like to know that it didn't just hang after this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut and paste that to the end here, and I'm going to say this is the end of the main method. So what I'm hoping will happen here is that I'll print these 2 lines out, and this will hopefully have completed silently. It's not really good evidence. We're going to figure out in a minute how to get better evidence that it's working, but that's the best we can do right now. So I'm going to say, first I'm going to say Java C, and nothing appears to have gone wrong. And then I'm going to say Java tester. And I got the two statements that I expected to get. Now, I added another statement in the middle, but I didn't, it wasn't a printing statement. It was just to do an action. Now, I would like to figure out a way to verify this action. I would like to be able to get that number, -1, and that name, unknown, out of here. And the way that we do this, which I started to say before, is with an accessor method. So I'm just going to put a comment here saying accessors. And I'm just going to make one accessor here. And that accessor will be what? Public int get emp no. And because it is because it is a method, it has parentheses at the end of the name. Okay, and so it will just, all it will do is a very, very simple thing. It will return empno. And because we have empno as this instance variable in this class, all of these methods have access to empno. So we set empno here, and then this method can get that empno. So I can just test this much quite easily by adding one more line here. So that I have this new method, an accessor method called getEmpNo, and I'd like to test it on this. So what I'd like to do now is have a print statement here. Just going to get rid of that. And instead of printing out a string, I'm going to print out an integer, which println will convert into a string for me. I don't have to even know that will happen. And what I'm going to do is say, with this object, testemp1, use the method getEmpNo. And this will tell me, with any kind of luck, this will tell me the number -1. I could put more stuff around it to make it look better. Okay, so now I want to test that worked. So what I'm going to do here is say Java C again, and then Java tester. And so I see that I've got the two statements that I had before plus a -1 in between. Now I'd like to do the same with name and see if I get the unknown name in here. So what I'd like to do here is add another line like this that's going to use this other method, getName. And so I'm just going to copy and paste that line. And did I say getName in the other? Oh, actually, I never created. I only created one. I need to create the other accessor method before I test it, don't I? So let me go back to this file here. And in here, I'm just going to copy this accessor and change this. And this name right here has to match this name right here. Oh, and I almost made a terrible mistake there. I said int. So this is going to return a string, not an int. So this one returned the int of empno. This one's going to return the string name. So where this had to match this name here, this name and this name have to match, and this type and this type have to match, and this type and this type have to match. Okay, so now I have enough accessors to do this, and I'm not sure if I've saved this or not. And then I'm going to go back over here, and now is when I should be putting this in. And I know that this is a method because it has the parentheses after it. And I know it returns a string, so println will just print it out. It doesn't even have to change it from an integer to a string. So let's see what happens if I do that. So that should be the same as this, except I should get one more line that says unknown. What did I do wrong? Did I not save that file? I think I didn't save that. Let me try it again. Having saved that file off screen. Yes, I did save that file now. So now I get 4 lines instead of 3. So you may have a situation with an IDE where you don't have to explicitly save, but I did, so I had to explicitly save the names. Okay, now let's suppose that I know in advance the name of the employee and the employee number I want to assign. So that's a very plausible case. It's a very likely case. So I want to add a new constructor that takes the employee name and employee number as parameters. So I'm going to go back to the class that's to be tested here, and I'm going to add another constructor after this one, and I'm just going to copy this constructor. I make another constructor now, but this one's going to have parameters, and these parameters are going to have these 2 types. So I'm going to make this one so that it takes the name first, string, and then I'm not sure what I'm going to put there, so I'll just put a question mark, and then int, and I don't know what I'm going to put there, so I'll put a question mark. And then in here, I want to set my variables to these question marks, to be the value of these question marks. So what should I put there? So you have a choice about that. So I'm going to show you one convention about that. One convention is to take these names here and put an underscore in front of them. And that's supposed to help you know, it's supposed to help you keep this straight. If you put variations of names on and stuff, it supposedly gets harder after a while. So you might not like doing that, but you can do it any way you want. I see all kinds of variations. Now the reason for this is that I can't say empno gets empno. I'm going to pass this information in over in my testor file. I'm going to pass these pieces of information in, and Java needs to know that this piece of information is going to end up in here in the instance variable, and this piece of information is going to end up in this instance variable. So I have to give them names that match the right side of these assignment statements. So empno gets underscore empno, name gets underscore name. Okay, so I'm going to go back over here. So now I want to call this with one of the names that in the exam. So now I'm going to say, I'm going to create another one, another employee. Employee 2 here is going to be new employee, and that's employee is going to be Alinda Hahn. If that was, I don't know if that was really a name, and an employee number of 644. I don't know if that was the right one, but this is just an example anyway. Now, what I have now is an example of overloading. So there are 2 methods, both named employee, and the way that Java can tell them apart is that in the class file, there's one that has no parameters and there's one that has 2 parameters. So when Java sees this, it sees a string followed by an int. It sees this name followed by a string followed by an int. It will actually go over and take a look in here at the list of constructors until it finds one that matches, and this one takes a string and an int, so this must be the right one. There can't be 2 that are identical. You can't make 2 constructors that take a string and an int. Let's say, for example, that you have a constructor that takes an int and an int. That could be somewhat confusing because you could put the ints in either way. Java would take the same constructor. So, and we're not going to deal with that type of issue right now. So we've got this new employee, and now what we would like to do, we would like to verify that the constructor worked, that the constructor with 2 parameters worked. If we run this again silently, if we run this again, it should pass silently. So we should get the same result that we got before. So if I were to run this again, currently I should get the same result that I got in here. So let's see if that happens. Java C, Java, and I get the same result. So I've added a new employee, but I haven't done anything to show me that I've added a new employee. I have a new object, but I haven't demonstrated that I've got a new employee object. So I could copy these two with where I'm going to use the same methods, but on this new object, and see what I get. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to just copy these two lines here and change these to twos. And let's see, so now I should get the same output I had before, except that sandwiched in here, I should have a line that says Linda Hahn and a line that says 644. And that is indeed what I got, in the opposite order that I said, because the file, I think I said the name first, but actually I set it up so that the number comes first, followed by the name. Okay, so that's that. So that's creating a test. That's the most basic thing that you could do to create a test class. So here's a test class, and then to create the class that's going to be tested. So if I say Java and in Java testor in this folder, the only things that are in this folder are employee and tester. So when I say that, Java has some standard stuff that it looks for, that it just looks for free, and then it looks for whatever is in here in this folder. And in this folder, it had employee.java and testor.java. Testor.java did indeed have a main method in it, so it was able to run that main method. That main method referred to an employee class, so Java went looking for an employee class, and it found it in the same folder. It, by the way, Java also went looking for the printline class, and it found it in the default place where the most basic Java stuff is. This is one of the things that you can get without saying import at the top of the program. For many of the classes that you use on a day-to-day basis, you'll have to say import above this line so that Java knows other places to look for things. This is the simplest case. And that's that.